There's a beautiful saying that says, as long as human beings think animals don't feel, animals will always know that human beings don't think. And that's so fucking accurate. It sums so many things up because as human beings we see ourselves as the superior living species, right? Because we have speech, we have created all this, civilization. So at the end of the day we tend to look down on the animal kingdom in general, any animal whatsoever the case may be, because they are not as sufficient or not sufficient. They are not as, you know, civilized or not as modern or not as human as we are. And I get that, of course, they are different. There's a difference, a huge difference in the way human beings communicate with each other than the way animals communicate with each other, and also how animals communicate with human beings. Because we tend to see, or we tend to think, oh, we can't see it, so it's not there. That's also why so many dogs, especially large breed dogs, at the end of the day end up biting because they are not being understood. Because we think we are that superior living species, we talk to each other, and every other living species on the world does not communicate. Every other species does not communicate with each other whatsoever. That's literally what human beings think. And it's fucking ridiculous, you know? It's actually fucking ridiculous because now we have gotten so much science and so much knowledge about, let's just use dogs and horses, for example. In my example, because I had both, I still have one. I grew up around dogs, and when I was 9 years old, I'd gotten a horse. So he was no longer wanted. The owner basically said, if I don't find anybody to take him within the next 2 weeks, I'm taking him to the slaughterhouse. So at the end of the day, my stepfather, who has always had horses, was like, hey, let's just take him in. And that horse and me, we grew like this. Okay. Mind you, this horse was, if you have any idea about horses or if you want to Google it, he was a halflinger. Okay. He was bred and raised in the mountains of Tyrol, very used to all types of weathers, very durable, strong horses, okay, with a strong will. And he was the kindest soul. I can walk this horse at the age of 10 like other people walk their dogs. He was so lovely and so caring and so careful around human beings. We had a neighbor and their daughter has Down syndrome. And one summer like that, he was standing behind our house in the field, and the fence was always with electricity because he was kind of used to escape. But at the end of the day, I digress. The girl, however, that very day, I don't know what happened. It's like the battery ran down, the fence was not, there was no electricity on it. So the girl, she should have been maybe like 6 years old, thereabout, that time, went inside the field. Mind you, my horse has never seen her before that day. He was not familiar with her. There was no connection, okay? And I went to exchange his water, and I got the shock of my life, okay? He was not very fond of strangers, generally, because of his abusive history. The girl was sitting under him. Under him. That horse had like around 850, 900 kilos. He was sitting under him, and my lovely baby did not move. He didn't move. He knew exactly what was going on. He knew exactly that this was a very vulnerable and fragile child, because animals feel, they can sense things more than human beings. Another example is a few weeks back, during summer, we went to take a walk with our dog in the nighttime. It was already dark, and my daughter was with me, my youngest child. She's 6 years old now. And somebody walked down the road towards us. And I had not seen this person before. They live in our neighborhood, but up the road. I don't know who this person is. My dog picked up something and immediately went into something is wrong mode. And he's a Kanekoso, so so he sensed whatever he sensed, I don't know. Then at the end of the day, the next day, I walked the same way. I saw what later turned out to be that person's mother. And that mother told me, because my dog went on foot, he was barking, he was growling, he was, he was not comfortable with the situation. So I brought him out of there, took my daughter, we went our way, no problem. So the next day when I walked the same way, the mother to that person told me, because it was dark, so I couldn't really see much, you know. So she told me that her son is severely handicapped, and therefore he has a walking impairment and physical impairments. And at the end of the day, he has a genetic disorder. So that led me to speak to a friend of mine she's very, very knowledgeable when it comes to dogs. She now told me that dogs can sense that genetic disorder, or however the case may be, as kind of like an off smell for them. So I did some research, and lo and behold, I knew that dogs are fucking sensitive, but that sensitive? Dogs, they can smell your adrenaline, they can smell anger, they can smell fear, they can smell happiness. They go so much by their nose. That is also why if you walk your dog and your dog is suspicious of something or somebody, trust their instinct. Because in 9 out of 10 cases, they know better than we do. Because they can smell a person's intentions sometimes, because out of the intention, the hormones change. Like adrenaline, when adrenaline is poured out in the body, the scent of that person may change, and the dog can sense that. And this video is such a good example of how animals communicate with us, of how they are very much aware if somebody is vulnerable, how they are very much aware of someone's state. Even like there have been situations, maybe I cried and my dog his mood changed. You notice that he noticed something is up. This is not usual. Because animals, they do feel, they do communicate. And also, if you have a dog and you have children, it is 100% your responsibility to learn to read that dog's body language, to prevent bitings. Because no dog, I can't stress that enough, no dog bites out of nowhere. That does not happen. Unless he's medically sick, unless there is pain involved, and that's a different issue. I'm talking about a healthy dog does not bite without announcing it. He doesn't bite without warning. He doesn't bite without like, hey, you're crossing a boundary. It doesn't happen. And the fact that we think it happens like that is exactly the reason why so many things go wrong with dogs, especially larger breeds like Rottweilers, Kanekos, or German Shepherds, etc., etc. Because we can't read them. We do not understand what they're telling us.